Looks like the LA Gladiators have the edge, at least in the Battle of Los Angeles. Only 2 players remain from their previous season roster. That's the Finnish duo of Big Goose and Shaz. Since then, of course, they picked up Space, they picked up Birdring, 2 key roster members for any team, and the Gladiators have them there. What do you make of these acquisitions, and also how competitive the Glads will be next season?
I think Space is a great pickup, even more so than Birdring, because Birdring is someone who I see as being really phenomenal on certain heroes and, you know, a little bit shakier on others. So I'm so glad that Birdring didn't retire. Like, I'm glad that he decided to keep playing because I think he's an insane talent. But in terms of the flexibility that, again, like looking at this past year has kind of been required of a team, I think Space is a great, like, is, I guess, my favorite pickup for this team. And yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be a whole different world for most of these Overwatch League rosters, Gladiators included. And Space is just the biggest pickup for me in terms of what has historically worked for Overwatch League teams.
Space, of course, part of that Overwatch World Cup winning Team USA squad. Played very well at the Overwatch World Cup. Speaking of worldly teams, of course, Paris Eternal making changes as well. This is an interesting one, Emily, because there's a lot of different nationalities represented on this roster, and we often have the conversation here at ESPN Esports about communication, right? Is it better to go with a team that all speaks one language versus having very good and solid players, but communication might not necessarily be at its peak and might be an issue. So with the Paris squad, we have representatives from France, from Portugal, the United Kingdom, and South Korea. So how do you think that will blend and gel next season for Paris?
Well, I think they're relying on the fact that the players that they kept from the old Paris lineup have obviously played together, but then also they basically picked up 3 really key players from Element Mystic, right? We've been waiting for Sparkle to make his Overwatch League debut because he's been too young, and he's obviously just an insane talent. He was playing Doomfist before, in you know, professional, or in basically Korea before it was cool in the Overwatch League, and I'm really excited to see this Element Mystic core on the Paris team. I think when we're talking about hybrid rosters, like, again, I think they can be the strongest rosters, right? Like, I think San Francisco Shock proved that. When you're looking at a hybrid lineup, I think what most teams end up not being prepared for are not just communication issues, but cultural mismatches that come from just traveling and being from a different country and suddenly being in a country where nothing is familiar to you. And I think people underestimate the fact that people transition differently. And some players are going to adapt really quickly and other players aren't. So it's not just a strict language thing. And in that regard, it's going to be up to the Paris Eternal staff to make sure that, you know, they're making a really good environment for a hybrid lineup. But I do think hybrid lineups get like a weirdly bad name. And I actually think that hybrid lineups have, again, the potential to be the best teams, right? Because you're gathering the best players. And you just have to rely on staff and setting the expectation of, especially if you're going to be rotating players in and out, setting the expectation that not playing in every game is not necessarily a slight against your performance, or your play, like it's more of a play style hero thing. So I think that this could end up being a really, really strong hybrid lineup, and I like all of the Element Mystic pickups. I'm really looking forward to seeing them in the Overwatch League.
Well, one team that definitely decided to find more home country talent is my Toronto Defiant. Canada represented on that Toronto roster. Mangachu, Toronto native, of course. Surefour and Agility's Team Canada members now joining the Toronto Defiant as well. So, Emily, why will my Defiant win Season 3? Give me 10 reasons.
I don't know about that, but I do like this roster. I mean, when you saw like Kareev, you know, like there was, I forget who left first. I think it was Agilities that left first, right? And then you were like, well, they can't break up Kareev Agilities. So I mean, I really like the fact that again they're relying on their friendship going onto this team. They've played together for a while. The Surefour pickup is good as well. Again, like, there's been so many changes with all of these lineups, and diagnosing Overwatch League lineups on paper has been significantly more difficult than doing League of Legends rosters, and League of Legends is already like a trip. So I just want to say that I really like the names on this Toronto Defiant roster. And I think they'll have a much better showing than where we saw them at the end of last year. How well they can do, I'm not sure, but I think this is definitely, like on paper, has the potential to be a playoff team. I really like who they picked up, and it's really going to depend on team synergy.